शंकर सूत गणेशा गौरी तनय श्री गणेशा। जय बोलो श्री गणेशा, जय बोलो श्री गणेशा, जय बोलो श्री गणेशा। शंकर सूत गणेशा गौरी तनय श्री गणेशा। महिमा में तेरी जो है अमृत, करता है मूलाधार चक्र को जागृत। महिमा में तेरी जो है अमृत, करता है मूलाधार चक्र को जागृत। अबोधिता दे निर्मल नंदन, करे गणपति तेरा ही वंदन, करे गणपति तेरा ही वंदन। प्रथम पूजे तू हमेशा, जय बोलो श्री गणेशा। जय बोलो श्री गणेशा, जय बोलो श्री गणेशा, जय बोलो श्री गणेशा। शंकर सूत गणेशा गौरी तनय श्री गणेशा। जय बोलो श्री गणेशा, जय बोलो श्री गणेशा, जय बोलो श्री गणेशा। शंकर सूत गणेशा गौरी तनय श्री गणेशा। निर्मल पुत्र गणेशा, निर्मल पुत्र गणेशा।
कृष्ण जिनका नाम है, गोकुल जिनका धाम है, ऐसे श्री भगवान को, ऐसे श्री भगवान को बारंबार प्रणाम है, बारंबार प्रणाम है। कृष्ण जिनका नाम है, गोकुल जिनका धाम है, ऐसे श्री भगवान को, ऐसे श्री भगवान को बारंबार प्रणाम है, बारंबार प्रणाम है। यशोदा जिनकी मैया है, नंद जी बापैया है, ऐसे श्री गोपाल को, ऐसे श्री गोपाल को बारंबार प्रणाम है। लूट लूट दधि माखन खायो, संग धेनु चरायो,
ऐसे लीला धाम को, ऐसे लीला धाम
प्रणाम है। लूट लूट दधि माखन खायो, वाल बाल संग धेनु चरायो,
ऐसे लीला धाम को, ऐसे लीला धाम को बारंबार प्रणाम है, बारंबार प्रणाम है।
कृष्ण जिनका नाम है, गोकुल जिनका धाम है, ऐसे श्री भगवान को, ऐसे श्री भगवान को बारंबार प्रणाम है, बारंबार प्रणाम है।
दिखाती है कुदरत जो हजार करिश्मा दिखाती है वो भी तो एक तरह से वो भी तो एक तरह से इंसान को मोहब्बत जताना है जताना है जताना है काम जिसको पकाते हैं दर्द दिल दिलाना है काम जिसको पकाते हैं दर्द दिल दिलाना है
Shri Mataji, respected brothers and sisters, Salam Sejahtera dari Malaysia, greetings from Malaysia. For those who are joining us for the very first time to the Tuesday Global Online Meditation, we welcome you wholeheartedly. Let us now keep our hands folded in the center of the heart, and we'll seek Sri Mataji's permission to have this meditation tonight. Sri Mataji, we, your children from around the world, humbly seek your permission, your blessings, and your protection, Sri Mataji, for today's meditation. We are indeed thankful to you, Sri Mataji, for giving us an opportunity to meditate collectively at your holy lotus feet. We thank you again and again, Sri Mataji, from the core of our hearts. Today, we are indeed very blessed to have our brother Dave Dunphy, an architect from the USA, born in Houston, Texas. Our brother is now settled with his family in Miami. He got his self-realization in San Diego in 1982. And thereafter, he was blessed to be sent by Sri Mataji to Hawaii and Singapore to start Sahaja Yoga in these countries. Brother Dave, a very diligent Sahaja Yogi, was also appointed as the national coordinator in the USA from 1993 to 1997, and then again in 2007 to 2011. Currently, Brother Dave is a member of the the World Foundation. Let's put our hands together and welcome our brother Dave Dunphy to lead our meditation today, and thereafter he will be sharing his experiences with Sri Mataji as to how he started Sahaja Yoga in Hawaii as well as in Singapore. Over to you, Brother Dave. Jai Shri Mataji.
Thank you so much, dear sister. Jai Shri Mataji.
Welcome.
Let us all bow down and offer our sastraras at the bountiful lotus feet of our Holy Mother, and then collectively raise our kundalinis and put ourselves into bandhan. As we open our hands before our Holy Mother, we surrender and open ourselves to her grace as the source of the Brahma Chaitanya, which moves through and sustains everything, both seen and unseen. Sri Mataji, it is with humble hearts that we sit before thee, and we offer our deepest gratitude for all of the many blessings which you have bestowed upon us. Please make us worthy and allow us to be one with you as cells within your body. Let us take the mantra to Sri Ganesha. Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Ganesha Sakshat Shri Adishakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Namo Namaha. Sri Mataji, we, your children, find ourselves in trying and difficult times and faced with a world which is ever more in need of your message of love and eternal joy. In this time, when the global pandemic ravages the seekers of the world, please help us to be the calm center in the eye of the storm and give to them the love and subtle guidance that they need. Please help us, Sri Mataji, to establish our witness state, the Sakshi Swaruparva, so that we may witness the dramas of life surrounding us and not react, but maintain our watchful internal state and stay on the axis of our Shushumna. Let us take the mantra to Sri Sakshi Swarupini. Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Sakshi Swarupini Sakshat Shri Adishakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Namo Namaha. Now let us take the third of the three great mantras of Sasrara. Om Tvameva Sakshat Shri Kalaki Sakshat Shri Sahasrara Swamini Moksha Pradayani Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Namo Namaha. Now let us establish our state of meditation in silence for some time. Now let us maintain our state of meditation as we prepare to listen to a talk from Srimataji on balancing our desire and action through the axis of Sushumna.
On the Sahaja style, the sun line is the right side and the moon is the left side. On the moon line, one can desire but cannot act. Apart from that, on the moon line, if you go too far, it can be destructive. Because if you sit in the house doing nothing, and also these days there's unemployment, say for example, no work, then you start thinking too much. And this thinking is just a desire, energy working out, no action. And without the action, this energy can become very destructive. That is why we find that people, they say that empty mind or is the devil's workshop. Where people do not act, when the action doesn't take place, then it can be quite destructive. So the balance has to be struck. And the balance is that we should desire and act. So a balance has to be struck where you have the Sushumna working out. Now the Sushumna Nadi is the one where one would say is the equator. Is not equator, but is the axis of the Mother Earth. The axis of the Mother Earth is the Sushumna, and that has to act. And when it comes to that axis, it is the one that balances. In the same way, in human beings, the axis is the most important. That's the main principle of life we have got is our axis. We have to stand on our axis. Those who do not stand on their axis, stand more towards the left or towards the life, are capable of complete destruction. Because either they will be destroyed by too much of right side or too much of left side. So our axis has to be properly dealt with. Now those people who do not have a proper axis can have problems of different chakras, of different kind of quality in a person. A person who stretches his axis too much, puts back his head like this, is a person who is very right-sided and creates problem with his ego. And the one who absolutely bends down, like a slavish person, also is a person who goes towards his destructiveness. Now there's a big problem between these two types of people, one trying to dominate another, and when they start dominating another person, they actually destroy themselves as well as destroy the ones whom they are dominating. One has to understand that what is the best within a human being is his axis. And everybody has an axis, and one must respect the axis of every person. In Sahaja Yoga, I don't know you by your faces so much. I know you by your chakras, by your Sushumna, what sort of a Sushumna you have. If you have a deep Sushumna, I know you as a deep person. If you have a superficial Sushumna, I know you as a person with a very superficial type of a Sushumna. And even if you make up something by sort of being very nice or good or talking about Sahaja Yoga or knowing too much about Sahaja Yoga and saying things which will baffle normally anyone as if you are masters of Sahaja Yoga, I know how deep you are. So the depth on the axis is more important than anything else. Your axis has to be very deep. Now you will say that, Mother, the axis is the same as it is. So how can it be deep? So in the axis, as you see, is made in human beings is like a 3.5 coiled paper like thing. and the inside of it is the Brahmanadi. The Brahmanadi is a very, very small little, we can call a very, very hair-like thing, where only a hair-like Kundalini can pass through. But when the person is deep, this Brahmanadi is bigger, and all the rest of them, which are coiled into each other, are smaller. While the people who are not deep, their outside, what you call the foldings, are bigger than the inside small thing. Now such people could be apparently very dynamic, may look very intelligent, may look very smart, may look to be very good looking, or whatever it may be, outwardly. But inwardly they are not deep. Inwardly, if they are deep, their whole attitude is beautiful. They are very joy-giving people. They are very joy-giving. And the more, if you meet a person of another kind, he may look joyous, he may try to give you joy, but the joy won't be really that deep. It would be like a joy killing. So it is important for us to make our axis deeper. And that is where we lack the proper assiduity, the proper effort we have to put in. Now some people have automatically very deep axis. And some people have very, very, what should you say, a very constricted type of the axis. This axis has to be grown. Now when you come for my puja and all that, I do expand it, I agree. But it is a temporary thing. To retain it at that point, one has to work at home, in the collective also. One has to work very much at home with meditation. But it should be done seriously. It should not be just a joke, to be frivolous, to be stupid. That's not the way. It should be done very seriously in the meaning that it is a devoted task you have taken. It's a meditative thing. It's a prayer to God. We can call it, it's a puja to God. Is to be done with that reverence, because reverence is the key of achievement. If you have no reverence about yourself and no reverence of others, then it cannot be done. But first you must have reverence for your own life. What am I doing with my life? Where am I wasting it? Why should I waste it? Why should I be deep? After all, there must be some purpose of my life. Am I serving my purpose? Am I doing that? All these things, if they pop into your head, then you will understand it's very easy to fight out your ego. Because normally on small things people fight. I have seen that in Sahaja Yoga also, people fight on things like, it's so useless, absolutely useless. To me, it sounds stupid to even mention the way people fight over small things and quarrel. But a deep person, even if he doesn't speak much, even if he doesn't show off much, even if he doesn't sit in the front line, he expresses himself through his depth, because I can work out better through that. So to develop this, one must meditate. Important thing is to meditate. Every day, every day, every day. You may not eat your food one day, you may not sleep one day, you may not go to your office one day, you may not do anything that you are doing every day, but you must meditate every day. That's an important point to develop the central constricted part into a bigger area. Now, when that happens, that you start developing it, the first thing you will notice about yourself, that you do not care for any comfort. You're not bothered about any material thing. Whatever it is, you are above it. You just don't bother your head. Let it be. You just don't want to put your neck into a thing where you do not belong. You just get out of it, and you think that oh God, this is too much for me, I just don't care for it. So your whole attention now moves inward. When the attention starts moving inward, then it expands more. This is the inner part, which is called as the Brahmanadi, and starts expanding and expanding. This widening comforts you. That's the comforting thing. And that really makes you feel so comfortable in any circumstance, in any position, in any lifestyle. And you do not want to have any other comfort. And this one has to develop through meditative effort. This balance comes through our depth, and that depth has to be improved. Not through just by talking about it, by talking about Sahaja Yoga, but actually seriously doing meditation, actually seriously doing meditation.
Let us remain in silence for a few moments as we absorb the words of our Holy Mother. We can all prepare ourselves and stand to offer arati to Srimati.
सबको दुआ देना माँ, सबको दुआ देना। जय निर्मल माता जी, जय निर्मल माता जी, दिल में सदा रहना माँ, सबको दुआ देना। सबको दुआ देना माँ, सबको दुआ देना। जय निर्मल माता जी, जय निर्मल माता जी, दिल में सदा रहना माँ, सबको दुआ देना। जग में संकट कारण कितने लिए अवतार माँ, कितने लिए अवतार। विश्व में तेरी महिमा विश्व में तेरी महिमा, तू गंगा यमुना माँ सबको दुआ देना, सबको दुआ देना माँ सबको दुआ देना। जय निर्मल माता जी, जय निर्मल माता जी, दिल में सदा रहना माँ सबको दुआ देना। जो भी शरण में आया सुख ही मिला उसको माँ, सुख ही मिला उसको। बैठ के दिल में ओ माँ, बैठ के दिल में ओ माँ, लौट के ना जाना माँ सबको दुआ देना, सबको दुआ देना माँ सबको दुआ देना। जय निर्मल माता जी, जय निर्मल माता जी, दिल में सदा रहना माँ सबको दुआ देना। मानव में अवतर के कर दिया उजियाला माँ, कर दिया उजियाला। कलियुग में माया है, कलियुग में माया है, फिर भी पहचाना माँ सबको दुआ देना, सबको दुआ देना माँ सबको दुआ देना। जय निर्मल माता जी, जय निर्मल माता जी, दिल में सदा रहना माँ सबको दुआ देना। संत जनों की धरती है भारत माता, माँ है भारत माता। इस धरती पर आकर, इस धरती पर आकर दुख से दूर करना माँ सबको दुआ देना, सबको दुआ देना माँ सबको दुआ देना। जय निर्मल माता जी, जय निर्मल माता जी, दिल में सदा रहना माँ सबको दुआ देना। जब दिल में आए तब मधुर संगीत सुन लो माँ, मधुर संगीत सुन लो। हो सके जो सेवा, हो सके जो सेवा हमसे करा लेना माँ सबको दुआ देना, सबको दुआ देना माँ सबको दुआ देना। जय निर्मल माता जी, जय निर्मल माता जी, दिल में सदा रहना माँ सबको दुआ देना, माँ सबको दुआ देना, माँ सबको दुआ देना। त्वमेव साक्षात् श्री महालक्ष्मी महासरस्वती महाकाली त्रिगुणात्मिका कुंडलिनी साक्षात् श्री आदिशक्ति त्वमेव साक्षात् श्रीकलकी साक्षात् श्रीयादिशक्ति माताजी श्रीनिर्मला देवे नमो नमः। ॐ त्वमेव साक्षात् श्रीकलकी साक्षात् श्री सहस्रार स्वामिनी मोक्ष प्रदायिनी माताजी श्री निर्मला देवी नमो नमः। श्री निर्मला देवी नमो नमः। श्री निर्मला देवी नमो नमः।
Bolo Shri Adi Shakti Mataji Shri Nirmala Devi Ki Jai. Jai Shri Mataji. Now let us all remain in silence for a few minutes to absorb the vibrations. Shri Mataji. We thank you for being present today and pray that you help us to fully establish the depth of our internal access. Please help us to reach all those who are in need and be the mirrors of the boundless love and joy that you have given us. For this, Shri Mataji, we are eternally grateful. Jai Shri Mataji. Now let's all raise our kundalinis, put ourselves into bandhan, and do namaskar. And now I'll turn it back to my sister Maheshwari.
Thank you very much, Brother Dave, for the blissful meditation. Very blissful meditation. Thank you for that. And we would like you to now share your experiences with Shri Mataji. And we also like to welcome Sister Madhuri, your wife, to speak if there's anything you want to share with us.
Sure.
Yeah, you also have your family here in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, Sister Padmaja and family.
Yes, hello everyone. Jai Shri Mataji.
Yes.
So I thought I would share a small capsule in time of some of Madhuri and I's experiences with Shri Mataji in Sahaja Yoga. Shri Mataji, when she came to the west coast of the US in different years, would occasionally on her way stop in Hawaii. And she would always talk to us about it and tell us how nice the place felt, how the vibrations were there. And this happened, I don't know, on several occasions where she would come to the West Coast on her trips to America first. When she went to the East Coast, she didn't travel through Hawaii, but when she came to the West Coast, she did pass through there. So in the early 90s, actually 1991, Shri Mataji asked me and Madhuri to go to Hawaii to start Sahaja Yoga there. And so, when Shri Mataji says anything, it just works out. So I started to apply for jobs. I got 3 offers, and I could pick and choose which one I wanted. It all happened probably within the span of a month. From Shri Mataji asking me to go to making preparations to do so. So it was all quite smooth and spontaneous, as I've found it is every time Shri Mataji, asks you to do something that is in the plan of the divine. And so we made our move to Hawaii. And first it was just Madhuri and I. Then Shri Mataji sent 2 other couples, to join us there. And so we had 3 couples, and Shri Mataji actually made her first visit inside of a year of us being there. It wasn't even 1 year, so we didn't have a lot of time to prepare, and she did want to have a public program while we were there as well. So many people from the West Coast traveled over to help us in preparation for this, and doing the postering and all the ththings that we used to do that we do online now or digitally. We did by hand then. And Sri Mataji came to Hawaii, and I can remember, picking her up at the airport, and it was nighttime. She had arrived in the evening, so it was dark. And so the airport is on the dry side of the island, the Honolulu side of the island, and we lived on the windward side, or the wet side of the island, and the island of Oahu was bisected by some large mountains, the Pali Range. And so we set off, and of course it was dark, so you couldn't see anything. And I was explaining to Sri Mataji as we were ascending the Pali what it would look like if it was daytime. And as we were passing over the Pali and dropping down the other side, I was explaining to Sri Mataji, about the water and how beautiful it was and how you could see it in the day. And then Sri Mataji, after listening patiently, began to describe to me the Pali Range and how it's a sawtooth peak full of growth, and how the beach was so beautiful and the turquoise waters, and that she could see it, and that there were beautiful trees lining the beach. And this section of beach in Hawaii is in the island of Oahu is unique because it isn't palm trees. It's a different kind of tree. So she was describing these all in pitch darkness. So I just kept quiet and ended my narrative and just listened. And Sri Mataji began to tell Madhuri and I and the person traveling with Sri Mataji that she now understands why people like to go there so much. She said it's because the atmosphere is charmed. The vibrations there are alive. The nature is alive. And she said that she could have a puja there and wouldn't need yogis to absorb the vibrations, because the land itself was so alive that it would absorb all the vibrations from her puja. So that was the first 15 or 20 minutes of Sri Mataji's arrival in Hawaii. And she had those beautiful things to say, about the island and the islands. So we went back, and in the next day or so, we were eagerly preparing for Sri Mataji's public program, which was to be held in downtown Honolulu, because it was the weather was beautiful and the temperature quite nice in Hawaii that time of year. We organized an outdoor venue in a courtyard of a very classic building at the YWCA, which is a beautiful old neoclassical building in downtown Honolulu, and set up her chair, her throne, and then all the seats in the courtyard under the boughs of trees with twinkling string lights hung in them. Beautiful atmosphere, and we were patiently waiting for Sri Mataji to arrive as the seekers began to come into the courtyard and assemble. And then we started to hear the rumblings of Mother Nature. It began to at first very gently thunder, and we were giving bandhans, concerned that okay, we've had this program set outside. What if it rains? And so we were, hastily giving bandhans, and meanwhile there's a drop here or there falling, but still not too much. And then Sri Mataji arrived. Everyone stood, and Sri Mataji began, walking down the central aisle to take her seat. And of course, the nature in Hawaii being very alive and being very responsive especially to her, the heavens opened and began to rain. And much to our dismay and chagrin, it was starting to rain fairly quickly and very hard. So we gathered Srimataji and brought her inside, and we asked her, Srimataji, what should we do? And she said, we were in a hallway inside the YWCA, which was nothing fancy, just a hallway. And Srimataji asked for a folding chair, a metal folding chair, to our dismay. And I asked Srimataji, we can bring the chair from outside and have you sit comfortably. She said, no, just get everyone inside quickly. We don't want them to get all wet. And I will speak to each of them. So much to our amazement and great love and respect for Srimataji, she sat on a metal chair and met every single attendee to that public program and worked on them one by one for as many as would come and as for long as they would keep coming. And we had tears in our eyes to see our mother pouring so much love to these seekers, having no thought whatsoever of her comfort, sitting on a folding metal chair and just seeing the faces of the seekers and their great respect for mother. And I mean, it was all just so wonderful taking place in a hallway at the YWCA as Mother Nature resounded outside, Sri Vishnu Maya sounding her call, and all the seekers that came to the program, getting their realization, and not only getting it, but getting the opportunity to meet Sri Adi Shakti in person. It was probably one of the most moving public programs I attended in all my years in Sahaja Yoga. And I attended and introduced Srimataji many, many times all over America. And this one was special because it was so spontaneous. So many, many people, everyone who stayed got their realization. And that, program became the beginnings of Sahaja Yoga in Hawaii. And just to share a little more humorous story about a side of Srimataji that we often don't get to see. But Srimataji was very humorous, had a very strong and good sense of humor. And she asked us to, take her shopping. And we went to this shop that sold pearls in Hawaii, that sold the natural seed pearls. And Srimataji wanted to buy many strings of those to be gifts for people. As those of you may know, that Srimataji would, wherever she went, would buy gifts for Sahaja Yogis and take them to the next place or to India to gift them to Sahaja Yogis that were doing Sahaj work, and was always so gracious and benevolent in that way. And so we were in this shop, and Srimataji was looking at these strings and making piles at the top of the counter. And at one point, and she asked the lady, how much are these? And so she told her, and then Srimataji asked her if she had any coral. And so she went in the back to look. And Srimataji leaned backwards to Madhuri and I and said, "Dave, these prices are so cheap, my feet are trembling." And we just couldn't maintain. We just started laughing, and Srimataji was giggling like a little girl, and just had this, very smile on her face that was just sparkling and marvelous. And so we went on with that, and we later used some pearls for that shop and for some coral pieces to act as chakras on a garland that we made for Sri Mataji and presented to her later in India for a gift from America and Hawaii in particular. So there is a garland of pearls and coral chakras that was made there. And but later that day, we went to another place, which was a furniture store, and Sri Mataji was looking at rosewood furniture, which is there in Hawaii because there are a lot of ethnic Chinese art and furniture shops there. And so we were making our way through this warehouse, and then we asked if Sri Mataji could be brought a seat so she could sit down and we could just bring her things. And so she did that, and the owner kept bringing things, and Sri Mataji was saying which things she wanted. And then at one point it was time to go. And I had, in the meantime, been circulating through the warehouse looking for a throne for Sri Mataji for America. And I found a beautiful rosewood hand-carved throne, which is now in the Davies Center, by the way, in Florida. And to have for pujas to be held in America for Sri Mataji. And so Sri Mataji was making her way out, and we were waiting for this elevator for the longest time, and it happened to be right by this throne. So I got the clever idea that I would ask Sri Mataji if she would like to sit as we waited for the owner to, go down and bring the elevator up, because it was a manual elevator. So he had to go down and physically, use the controls to bring it up. So she said, all right. So I motioned towards what we hoped would be the throne, and Sri Mataji sat down in it, and it fit perfectly. And I think I don't know whether she saw some look on my face, a look of satisfaction, and she looked up at me and she smiled and she shook her finger at me and she said, "Nothing doing." She said, "You must let me pay for this." And I said, "Sri Mataji, you are our guru, and we wish to respect you and show you, our adoration when you come to America for puja. And this would be specifically for pujas and public programs in America. And we humbly request that you allow us to acquire this, to treat you properly, Sri Mataji." And this play went back and forth for some time, and eventually she relented. Thank God. And so we purchased the chair, and it was shipped to the mainland, and it was used in many public programs and pujas, and videos from American pujas you can sometimes see, and or public programs, that chair in those programs. So that was a wonderful and magical experience, and another lesson that you can't put anything over on our mother, even when it's a good thing. So, and I guess the last story I'll share with you, so that this doesn't go too long.
We have all the time, brother.
Yes, I know. But this is kind of a capsule in time that is very special, and I just wanted to kind of relate, what was special about this visit, and immediately after, and when Sri Mataji returned to San Diego, and we, of course, because she was going to begin a longer U.S. tour, we traveled with her, and one evening in San Diego, it was quite late after a very, very busy day of shopping and preparation for a public program that was to take place there. We were in Sri Mataji's house and in her bedroom, and she was, preparing to go to sleep. And Madhuri and I were in the room alone with her at that moment for some reason. I don't remember why. And we were sitting at her feet. She was in her chair, and all of a sudden she closed her eyes. And so we closed our eyes and went into meditation. And Sri Mataji sat for that, like that, for some time in complete silence. And then she opened her eyes and she looked at us and she said, you know, in a way, you have to be like me, ekakini, alone. In your relationship to the divine, you are alone. She looked at Madhuri and said, you can't depend on your husband. And she looked at me and she said, you can't depend on your wife. In that relationship, you are alone. It is singular. It is your own. And we bowed before Sri Mataji, and she said, Anant Ashirwad, and then she went off to sleep. And I've never forgotten it. And I share that with you now so that you know that our individual relationship with Sri Mataji is exactly that. It is up to us to forge in the silence of meditation and establish through our axis, our Sushumna, that connection for ourselves with her.
Absolutely.
So, Jai Sri Mataji, everyone.
So it's a great message to all of us. Some of us have experienced that too in our journey with Sri Mataji. But getting it from you, a pioneer from Inside Yoga, I think it is very apt for all of us to grow in our axis as well. Brother, is it possible that you share some experience in Singapore? You were also the leader in Singapore at one time. And also, Sri Mataji gave you the name Dave, isn't it?
She did. When we were married in Bordi, we had to go to Mumbai to formalize the wedding in a Arya Samaj ceremony, because at that time, even now, the Sahaja marriages are not legally recognized. So, except perhaps maybe in India. So we had to do an Arya Samaj wedding, and for that I had to take a Hindu name. And so Sri Mataji named me Devdutt. So D-E-V instead of D-A-V-E. And she always called me Dev from then on. So I carried that with me, and through life for all the years that she was alive. And Singapore is a simple story, because while we were there, Sri Mataji, other than, in fact, I don't think she actually passed through Singapore for the 3 years that we were there. I know that after, with the collective in Singapore, she did come through Singapore, and many yogis came to the airport to receive her. We were not there by that time. But I will say that Singapore was very refreshing as compared to America for spreading Sahaja Yoga, because in America, when Sri Mataji came, there were hundreds, sometimes thousands of seekers. We had programs in Balboa Park in San Diego in an open air amphitheater where we had 1,600 people in this beautiful organ pavilion with this majestic organ playing when Sri Mataji arrived, and she would walk along this colonnade and then sit with the backdrop of this 60-foot pipe organ, and we would have follow-up programs, and we would gradually see the numbers go from the thousands that were there to hundreds to less than hundreds to a handful in the follow-ups that we would conduct in the months after her visit. And Sri Mataji always told us that America was a difficult place, and that only certain seekers would be able to recognize her in Sahaja Yoga. And we always, had that those words in our hearts and our minds as we we tried and continue to try to spread Sahaja Yoga in this country. But Singapore was a wonderful antidote to that for me, because we organized programs at the Regional Educational and Learning Center, RELC, in the central area of Singapore. And the first program that we advertised and for a Sahaja Yoga program was standing room only. There was not a seat open, and people were standing at the back of the hall against the wall to attend the program. And I think, as I recall, all of our programs in Singapore that were advertised public programs were very successful, very well attended. And it was just easier. I mean, perhaps culturally, this kind of devotion and worship and the notion of meditation, at least at that time, in the late 90s, was more acceptable in Singapore than it was in America. Of course, now America has changed. And I think meditation is much more mainstream, so it's much easier today than it was in those days to spread Sahaja Yoga. But Singapore was a welcome, refreshing change from what we were experiencing in America. We were only there for 3 years, but it was enough to gain a foothold. My dear sister-in-law, Padmaja, and her husband, Vikas, were there for many years after us and kind of took things forward. And so those seeds were planted and bore fruit. And I consider myself, and I know Madhuri does as well, extremely fortunate to have been able to be used as an instrument by Sri Mataji to, be sent there, to be sent to Hawaii, to be asked to come back from Hawaii to America to act as a coordinator. I felt so grateful that so much of my life was clear cut. Sri Mataji asked me to do something, I did it, and was so happy and so
Blessed.
Grateful to do so, as I know all of us that have been exposed to her feel that way. And now we get that guidance and that instruction in silence through our meditation. So that's
Yeah. So I think your family is also very blessed in the sense that, Vikas and Padmaja, as well as Brother Sandeep in Italy, he's doing also a very good job there. All of you are doing a great job in Sahaja Yoga.
Thank you so much. And even Madhuri's mother, for so many years in India, was attending to Sri
Auntie
Mataji.
Shirayu, right?
Yes, Sharayu, Auntie, my second mother. Remember her dearly, and very auspicious and
she was
subtle
in
person.
Pakistan, right? Taking
Yes,
care.
yes.
It was nice having you, brother. It was a very, very touching story that you shared with us about Hawaii. And we too have tears for Sri Mataji whenever she is so full of compassion and love for her children. Always there to forgive us for all our mistakes. And we are ever eternally grateful to Sri Mataji for giving us our self-realization. And we hope that we can emulate you, and all our brothers and sisters will join together and make sure that Sri Mataji's work doesn't stop here, and we continue to be her instrument in some way or another. So it was a pleasure having you, brother. And we hope that you can join us some other time. And we wish America all the best in their self-realization program. And please
so
convey
much
our love in regards to Sister Madhuri, Radhika, Sulo in France, and little baby, your grandson, Lian. Is it Lian?
Liam, yes,
Madhava,
Liam.
yeah. Congratulations also to all that.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much
Jai Shri
for
Mataji.
this platform, inviting me and allowing me to share some of Sri Mataji's love with you all.
Yeah. Thank you
Jai
so
Shri
much again and again from all of us. Yeah. Jai Shri Mataji. It's morning over there. It's good. It's night here. So
Yes.
thank you. Thank you for taking time to share
Good
your
night, all.
experience with you. Yeah.
Good night, all. Jai Shri Mataji.
Jai Shri Mataji.
Jai Shri Mataji. Thanks, Brother Dave. Thank you. Thank you, Mahesh.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you.